Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome back once again to the longest running show in the world about data. It's called DM Radio. Yours truly, Eric Kavanaugh here. And folks, I am tickled pink with amazing guests today. Yours truly has been a huge soccer fan since the smallest of ages. I played when I was 7. I just loved it. I've always loved soccer. It's frankly the only game I can watch, even if I don't have a dog in the match. Even if it's just teams I don't even know, I can sit there and watch World Cup. But of course, what's the best? The Premier League. And who's the best in the Premier League right now? Liverpool Football Club. We have Drew Crisp, Senior Vice President of Digital, on the show today from Liverpool Football Club. Are you kidding me? And I've got Michael Welts, Chief Marketing Officer of Wasabi, also an absolute power player in the data and AI world these days. We're going to talk about what's happening. We're going to talk about really cool AI technology that makes recording videos and editing videos a super fun job. A lot of the editing stuff used to be very boring and time consuming, and you got to work all day to find the right clips to get something out the door. Now we've greased the tracks with something called Wasabi AiR. We're going to talk about that on the show today. And first of all, let me bring in Drew Crisp. Thank you so much for your time today. Congratulations, knock on wood. I know you're as superstitious as I am, but
Yeah.
you folks are crushing it out there. What's your secret? What's the magic?
Well, look, thank you for that introduction. I think that's probably the best introduction I've ever had. I couldn't even begin to tell you what the secret sauce is. One, because it's secret, and two, actually, because I have no idea. But yeah, we're crushing it. The teams are crushing it on the men and women's front. Yeah, so we are, very, very thankful for where we are as a club right now.
Yeah, and I'll bring in Michael Welts from Wasabi as well. Michael, thank you for bringing me in. Put me in, coach. I'll talk to Liverpool all day long. You guys are riding high as well. This Wasabi AiR. I mean, I've known about Wasabi since the dawn of your company, of course, and we had shows way back when. But you're just crushing it these days, and I love that you've taken this focus because you've been focused now on media and big media and helping them with storage and stuff like that. That's very important. But now with Wasabi AiR, you're facilitating the creative process in ways that make creators so happy because creators want to create. They don't want to run logs on files and do all sorts of functions and things. They want to just create their magic. And you've now greased the tracks with Wasabi AiR to make that happen. Tell us about it.
Yeah, that's right. This is exciting for us as well because frankly, I mean, cloud storage has been around for what seems like forever now, but this finally gives context to that data. And honestly, what's the point of migrating to the cloud if you can't find anything?
Right.
And that's what we've done is with this AI recognition, or what we call Wasabi AiR capability. It now gives that ability to the sports, the entertainment world, to instantly turn that into leverageable content that improves the fan experience. Honestly, as the marketing guy for a storage company, it couldn't be more exciting to actually talk in a language that the everyday fan can appreciate what we do. Nobody really cares about data storage, but they do care about seeing that replay when they want
That's
to,
right.
or seeing that moment. That's what we're doing.
That's yeah, that's right. And Drew, I'll throw it back over to you. Obviously, it's all about the fans. I mean, this is a fan-supported industry, and Premier League is what the name would imply. It's the Premier League. It's amazing. I mean, we of course here in the States, we just got Lionel Messi about a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, and when he came over to play for Inter Miami, I watched every single game, and he's fantastic. But they're not in the Premier League. You guys are in the Premier League. In fact, you're at the top. Knock on wood. It's all about the fan experience. And to Michael's point, now with Wasabi AiR, your creators can just dive right into all this content and it allows the expeditious location of just the right shot to get people excited, right?
Look, 100%. Firstly, by the way, I've just got to acknowledge this based on what you said there, Michael. You've got the hardest job in the world, CMO for a cloud storage company initially, and yet you turned Wasabi into a complete powerhouse. So,
Thank you.
clearly,
Thank you.
my job's easy because fans love football clubs, right? Yeah, look, the one thing we've always competed for, and I say off the pitch, is people's time. And in
Mm.
the social world we live in, everyone's time is so valuable that you're fighting for it. You're fighting to be on their screen, part of the scroll. So the quicker we get content out there, the quicker we get their attention and we get their time, the quicker it adds value to all of our partners and all of our fans. So, that's fundamentally, that's what we're chasing. And where we used to spend hours, and well, in some instances we still do, because we've still got lots to do and we're still on the journey, but like where we spent hours looking for things, now we can just spend seconds, and then editors can do what editors do best, create. And that's what we want them to do.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And the game itself, of course, is always exciting. And what I love about it is that it really is a game of excellence. I mean, you have to be in shape to do this stuff. You have to practice. You have to learn how to work with your teammates. You said you got to, transition in the coaching environment, and that's always a bit of a challenge. Of course, here in America, we had Ted Lasso, and that took the world by storm. So now there are
Yeah.
even more soccer fans in the US of A. And I've always wanted it to really get there. And I think, honestly, this innovation could help extend even further the impact and the positive impact that the Premier League has on people's lives, because it's what we do for fun. We get excited about it. We look forward to the games. And I'm a creator, so I appreciate the difficulty, the challenges of creating good content. And when you are burdened by long processes and just scrolling through video trying to find the right clip, where's that one with his where we can see his face clearly as he hits the goal. Well, now you can do that with this technology, and that again energizes the creative team, and they energize all the fan base, right, Drew?
Yeah, definitely agree with all those things. I'd say, I mean, football, soccer in the US is the fastest growing region in the world right now. And so, we absolutely recognize that, there's a fan base, a huge fan base for Liverpool out in the US that we want to target. I'd also say that it's not just about the here and now and the live games. All of the fans love the history, they love the heritage, they love the comparisons. So the other beauty of what we're trying to do with Wasabi AiR is, if there is a point that says, I want to see, I don't know, I want to see all of the goals we've scored against this team over the last 10 years, the speed at which we'll be able to do that is going to be huge.
Wow.
And that's why, this is why it's a game changer. And fans love that stuff as much as they love the, show me that clip again of the goal that scored, in the last 20 minutes, so well, or in the last 4 hours, depending on the blackout, right? But that's, it's so we've now got capability that serves all of those purposes, and that's genuine, that is game changing.
Yeah, if I can jump in on that. So to Drew's point, imagine where the fans, whether it's on television or live in the stadium, have seen Mo Salah score one of his phenomenal goals, and someone in the stadium is sitting there, or again at home, and says, what are the 5 most historic moments in Mo Salah's career? And
Wow.
you combine that with an LLM platform and a machine learning platform like us, and it basically kicks out, here are the 5 top goals or the 5 top historic moments. Oh, by the way, do you want to see the video of that? And that can literally be delivered as a personalized experience right down to the app that Drew works on with the MyLFC Experience app.
That's crazy. And what I'm realizing here, and I'll throw this over to Michael and then to Drew as well, is we're now going to have video capabilities like we have analytical capabilities. So you mentioned, and we watch these sports games all the time, sports fans do, and it's always fun when they say, oh, this team has X percentage chance, or they've done this 4 times, and these really obscure stats, which we can do because of analytical capabilities, because there are tools and technologies built to enable that kind of thing. And now we have the capacity, as you suggest, Michael, to show the videos themselves. So put all that in context. And that's fun. I mean, you want to watch the game for the chances, you want to watch the game for great saves, but we all like the goals, right? We like when they score. And I'm the kind of person, I like here on our cable television, you can pause a live game for 30 minutes. All right. So what I'll do is I'll pause it for like 10 minutes. And that way I can kind of go back in time and watch stuff all the time. And when there is a goal, I'll watch it like 5, 6 times because it's just that much fun. But to have that capacity after the games to be able to look back at the repository, at all that history, Drew, I'll throw it over to you. That's very exciting because you can appreciate where your team has been, where they are now, where they're going. All that comes into play when you have all that context at the ready, right, Drew?
I think there's there's 2 parts to that, which I think is exciting. There is one part where it says, we've got access to all of this kind of archive, and therefore, we can show, we can clip those moments, create those moments. And then there's another part which says, actually, if we've got access to all of that archive, we're not that far away from putting it in front of the fan, so they can choose what they want to see. And so
Wow.
actually both of those things are going to be, it's really, really important. I mean, it's a bit like saying, in your Netflix or your Amazon, you've got a library of films. Well, what happens if you wanted to stitch some together? Like, what if you wanted to take the best clips from all of the films that you love and you wanted to stitch together? Now, maybe that probably wouldn't work with films, but you can do that with sport. And I think that's absolutely, it's definitely where, it's definitely where we're headed. It's the trajectory. And actually then that is the best personalized experience. We all talk about personalization and targeting, and can't we, show people what we think they want to see? Well, there's nothing more personalized than a fan choosing it. So,
Right.
so actually, for us, that's nirvana, and there's lots to be done to get there, but we are absolutely on that journey. And I think it's hugely exciting, and that the archive that we have, the content that we have, no different to any other organization that's got sitting on all of this content, is hugely, hugely valuable. But we've never had an ability to really surface that value in the way that we have now. And for us, that's the biggest difference we're going to see in the next 3-5 years.
Yeah,
Eric,
I
I
just
think
love it. Go ahead.
Eric, I think you raised a really interesting point, which is, to date, probably for the last 5 years, especially because of the companies like the AWSs, the Googles of the world, and their involvement in sports, it's all been around analytics. And over the last 2 years, it's all been about generative AI. But if you go back literally a century, all this content has been sitting there, whether it's
Right.
in the movie industry or in the sports industry. And it's in some cases, it's still sitting on tape in boxes and working its way to an affordable cloud. And
Wow.
now the cloud has made it so that it's affordable. And now, because of AI is being used as if you will, a transformative kind of force to change the evolution of the industry. There's literally 500 exabytes of stored data and content just in sports media and entertainment sitting there
Wow.
waiting to be cataloged. And that's not even including, obviously, the games that are in real time right now.
Right.
It's going to change, just like Netflix did for the movie industry. It's going to change how sports entertainment actually works all the way down to the fan engagement.
I mean,
Yeah,
I can testify to that, because right outside my door is our room. Well, in fact, there's 3 rooms with tapes, actually, from almost like games probably going back to 70s, 80s on Betamax,
wow.
and old tapes all the way through. And we're moving that into the cloud. But I think what we're seeing, and I liked your analogy there when it came to the data and analytics, ultimately content is still data, but there was no mechanism, as I said before, to really capitalize on that and value that data. I mean, there's a huge, huge value that organizations are sitting on. We've now got an ability to surface it quicker, better, faster, and in a way that we know people want. So yeah, it's definitely going to shift the industry.
Well, and there's another side of the equation here. I'm realizing just talking to you, gentlemen, of kids and helping kids appreciate not just what they already see in the games they're able to go to, but I think when they can experience the rich history of these teams, and of course, Liverpool has a tremendous history, it helps the parents communicate to the kids and helps the kids appreciate what
Yeah,
we love as parents and what we went through to be able to go back and show games from the 1980s. I mean, I remember Klinsmann doing this amazing shot in like 1980 where the ball comes in, it's World Cup, and he's standing right outside the box and he just goes pop with one pop of his leg. He stops the ball, pops it up like this, and he pivots and goes, oh, pow, and bangs it into the goal. You're just like, wow, to be
yeah.
able to find that kind of thing as a creator and show and share with people, that gets me excited. That has to get every soccer fan excited. What do you think, Drew?
Yeah, it's sort of impossible not to say no. Yeah, everyone will get excited by it. It's what's the right words I'm looking for here? I think it's an opportunity to educate as much as it is also enjoy. So like, it's
Hmm.
important that people understand the history of the game, and it's important people understand, history and the players that used to play. Because we all live in a moment, right? And so we all get
Right.
consumed by our screens, and we all get consumed by, the 3-second and the 10-second clips without necessarily understanding, some of the more, challenging periods of the game that actually should be educational. So, you can also use this to surface those things as well. So I think always round, it just enriches the experience of sport. Whether it's Liverpool Football Club or any other sport, the more we can enrich everyone's experience of it, the better it is. It's great for people. It's great for organizations like Wasabi, who are, changing how we consume content and changing how we look at archive content, changing how we operate. And that's a big shift. And we need disruptors like Wasabi to help us do more, quicker, better, faster.
Yeah, that's great. We only got about 2 minutes left in this segment, but I'll throw it over to you, Michael. You made a really good point, and Drew commented on this as well. We really are turning around this whole world. We're inverting what has been driven by algorithms to what will be driven by individuals, because you want to find the stuff that's of interest to you, and that's the ultimate personalization, right, Michael?
Yeah, exactly. In the world of marketing, it's all about storytelling. It's the same thing in sport. It's the stories of the players. It's the story of the game historically, currently, but now the individual will be able to create their own story based on this content.
Yeah, and you can build whatever you want. So exposing that capability to the fans, that's another exciting part of this whole journey, because it used to be you just had to go to the game, you watch the game, it was a tremendous amount of fun, or maybe you watch it on TV. But now you can go back and relive the memories and re-excite yourself about the cool times that you had, especially if your team isn't doing good in a particular year. That's when it's real fun. We got 1 minute left of comments from you, Drew. Go ahead.
Um, my final comment is going to be like, people want choice in every part of their lives. Everyone wants choice rather than being told what to consume.
Right.
This is the ultimate way of giving them choice on a topic they love. I mean, how good is that?
Yeah. I mean, that's really, really exciting stuff. And as I suggested earlier, I'm a huge fan. I love to watch the plays. I was saying, and again, Lionel Messi, just because he's in America now, I can get excited about him. I would show my daughter, I say, hold on, just watch this. Okay, Dad, like watch this one more. Watch as he goes all around here and then goes, oh, pow, and like just strikes with that left foot. You're like, what? He did it again. And I mean, they're now the number one team, or they were the other day. I mean, and, he just turned a team around. So excitement is a huge part of the sport. It's why we're there, to watch
Yeah.
these people excel, to watch them do amazing things. We want to be able to share those memories for years and years and put them in context. Well, folks, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. You're listening to DM Radio. All right, folks, back here on a very special DM Radio, a premiere episode, if you will. And I'm talking to Michael Welts of Wasabi and Drew Crisp of Liverpool Football Club. Are you kidding me? This is all happening. It's real. And Michael, in the break there, you're just commenting on how Drew is quite the pioneer himself. What's that all about?
It's just fun hearing the excitement in your voice when you say that you're talking to Drew versus the storage guy. Okay. I mean, we're all kids at heart. We all love sport, right? And Drew represents that. Even though he's a digital IT guy himself, he's the cool kid. And Drew, when we sat down with Drew for the first time 3 years ago, it was all about, what are you doing with the data? And how do we help preserve your content? And we can do that affordably in the cloud. And honestly, it wasn't a real sexy story. It was just about getting it to the cloud, saving money, and that's it, and backing up and protecting it. But then we said, okay, where do you think this goes? And he said, well, ultimately, I want to turn this into a fan experience. How can I leverage this data? And we started looking at the opportunities out there and the technologies. And Wasabi AiR comes as a result of an acquisition, which literally comes as a result of our discussions with Drew. He's a true pioneer in this industry, in sport worldwide, not just at the Premier League. Drew is being written up in every magazine right now about his vision for where he's taking sport. And it's fun to watch it come to fruition, because he's literally changing the game, leveraging AI unlike anybody else.
Yeah. I mean, this is very cool. And Drew, I'll throw it over to you. One thing that really excites me, and I'm guessing that we're going to agree on this, is that once you're in the cloud, it's easier, at least in certain circumstances, to leverage new technologies. So when you talk about layering AI over existing material, that gets very interesting, because the power of some of these algorithms to be able to catalog data, tag data, um, compress, of course, move, all sorts of different things that we do with it. But the ability to catalog massive tranches of files and understand what's there and then expedite access to exactly what you want, that's a huge deal. And that's what we're talking about here. Wasabi Air sits on top of your storage and allows you to navigate almost like a card catalog would for books in the library, but in a much more dynamic visual way, right? So having that vision, I have to say hats off to you, because that is a very, very, it's a it's a beautiful mission, because you want to make it a fan experience. You're caring about the fans, and that's what they care about, is they want a team who cares about them. I'm a Chicago White Sox fan. I don't think our managers care about the fans. Like, we just broke the record for most losses in a year. Okay. It's not the kind of record you want to break. So it's like, I know what it's like when the manager does not care about the fans. That's the Reinsdorfs. That's who they are. They're in Chicago. They've been destroying my team my entire life. We do have
On
one
the
world
Bulls though?
champion. Yeah, they did. That's true. They maybe I'll give them some credit for that, but I'll throw it back to you. Drew, it's awesome that you had this vision and now it's coming into reality. It's got to be exciting for you.
Can I first say I thank you for all those accolades. As Michael knows, I'm not very good at all of that stuff, and I really always appreciate him saying it. There's always a team behind the team, and you know I'm just one of the guys here. So, but I do appreciate the accolades. The exciting thing and the very fortunate thing in my job is I do get to see all of the vision and strategy and plans and what we're trying to achieve start to come to life.
Wow.
And that's what we're seeing with Wasabi AiR and content, and that's what we're seeing across the board in some other areas. Also within my sort of remit, the beautiful, opportunity we have is, because I look after media as well as marketing, as well as all of the product work, gluing those things together has the biggest impact. It's not about like doing just one thing at the exclusion of other. So using Wasabi AiR to curate content to get things out quicker, putting that into a product, and what we're planning to do in terms of evolving our product experiences to simplify all of that for fans, and then being able to market something as an opportunity, a product that adds huge amount of value that a fan will want. That's a beautiful thing, but
Yeah.
it comes from being able to kind of glue all of those things together against and ultimately a vision and a plan. And
Yeah.
yeah, look, AI has been around for years. I mean, with my geeky hat on, I did AI when I was at university, and that was a long, long time ago, which I don't want to think about. But AI's never really had the compute power that it's got now, or the business problem
Right.
to solve.
Right.
Suddenly, we've put all of this content into the cloud. So number one, that's brilliant, because it means that our editors and producers can work from anywhere, as opposed to having to come into an office and work against a 24 disk spinning server. Like, who
Right.
to do that, right? And so, whether they're in a coffee shop or whether they're at home, I don't really want to know where they are, to be honest with you, as long as they're working. But being able to access that. And so suddenly you've got all of this content, and you've got all of these people going, blimey, I could get access to this really, really easily. Now I want them to do the creative bit, not spend time looking for stuff. And so,
Right.
that's where suddenly Wasabi AiR is solving a big business problem. And
Yeah.
the value of that is going to be enormous. But it becomes even more valuable when you put it into a product and experience that's got a marketing vision for something that fans are going to want. And then
Right.
suddenly it kind of comes to life.
Yeah, and Michael, I'll throw this over to you. It was a few years ago now, not too long, maybe 2, 3 years ago, that I noticed on my phone it automatically grabbed a bunch of photos and put some music track behind it and created this little video. And I was like, well, gosh darn, that's actually pretty sophisticated. And we're seeing this confluence of technologies now of media editing, cataloging, video storage, all these things kind of coming together. And I realized back then, wow, this is very interesting. But what you've done now in this partnership with Liverpool is basically opened that door for fans of all shapes and sizes, of all walks of life, to have their experience. I mean, that's the vision. And that is just so much fun to do because everyone wants to be a creator. Everyone is a creator to a certain extent. It's just they may not have the tools necessary or the time. But when you grease those tracks and let your fans really dive in, first of all, you're going to learn a lot about them by seeing what they choose instead of using algorithms to show them what you think they want to watch. When they can watch, that whole turns everything around. But then to be able to create these movies, it's just fun and interesting, and it extends the value, it extends the relationship, it extends the fun, right, Michael?
That's right. Again, it's AI as a transformation tool, as a a force multiplier in terms of efficiency. I think there's a stat out there that says something around the fact that 69% of sports fans engage daily with sports content on their smartphone. So they're going
Wow.
to their phone to watch a game, to get the scores, whatever it might be. Now think of it from Drew's perspective. He can actually take a moment in time in live or real time in a game and instantly turn that around into a sport moment via social media. Take a
Wow.
clip and go. And suddenly the fan can, take that and share that in their feed, their friends network, etc. So again, he's getting even greater brand loyalty within his fandom by being able to customize that content and then the fan customizing that content beyond it. It's a game changer on both sides of the table.
Yeah, and I'll jump in on that point because the other thing, the other challenge we always have, every sports club has it, is how much content can you really create?
Right.
Because there's always a capacity. And even when you've created it, how much airtime does it get? Where do you put it?
Right.
And so actually, if you've also got this capability, which means you can do even more with the content that you have got, that's equally important as creating new, because then we're kind of, we are getting more relevant content without necessarily having to shoot more, without having to try and capture more, without having to try and get players times, managers times, other thing. And actually you can take all we've got, stitch it together in a current experience. And
Right.
so if I look at things like our match center, in due course, our ability to be able to immediately splice a bit of content relevant to what's going on in that game, even though it's historic, and putting it into the feed makes a massive difference. And so just because it's historic content doesn't mean it won't have relevancy in a moment. We can use Wasabi AiR to actually find that without having, and we haven't shot anything new. We haven't
Yeah.
put a camera anywhere. And that is also something that we have to use. And that's why, things like AI and where it's driving that efficiency and effectiveness will make a difference. And yeah, that's so again, it kind of all comes back to that, glue it together into an experience and
Right.
actually look at the incremental value that it delivers.
Yeah.
And I think it's also important to, in the world of sport, to think of it from the business perspective, not only the fan perspective, which, I have to think, I do a lot of sponsorships and sports marketing as well. And, for Drew, he can turn this into entirely new content channels. So it allows him, if you will, the net stream capability to create more revenue opportunity. But when he or his team has to look at me as a sponsor, and I say to them, what's my return on this? I remember the original demo we did with Drew. We said, let's take a look at how many fans in the stadium happen to be sporting a Nike logo on their shirt.
Oh,
And we can
wow.
do that, right? And so
That's crazy.
to a Nike, seeing how many fans are wearing a Nike logo in there says, hey, this is, that's a target audience for us. We want to go after Liverpool because Nike fans love Liverpool. And again, it helps to support the whole idea of a sponsorship and why it makes sense for companies like Wasabi.
Yeah, that's a very, very good point. I mean, there are lots of benefits that you get from all this. And, as you gentlemen are talking, I'm thinking to myself on the team side, on the management side, for the coaches to be working with the players, that's another whole side of the value as well, right, Drew? Because now you can show very specific plays and say, look, notice how he blocks this guy out here, and that opens the lane for him to come in and score this goal. Those kinds of things, the blocking and tackling, if you will, which aren't very sexy. It's not the goal scoring, but it's what leads to the goal scoring. That's what helps coaches work with their team members to get their side to run in the ultimate efficiency, right, Drew?
Yeah, and definitely, and I'm being brutally honest. that's not even an area we've explored yet. Sorry, Michael, you were going to say.
No, my apologies for interrupting. But I do, again, when we were all doing the pilot of this thing, I think one of the first pieces of feedback you gave me was we actually noticed some differences in throw-ins and where the ball was being placed in the field against certain competition. And to Eric's point, it
Wow.
gives a little bit of a competitive edge to when you analyze that kind of thing.
Yeah, and there's more and more of this that will be done. I mean, we have football analysts in the different training grounds, and we have got a team of analysts in Melwood looking at the women's game. We have a team of analysts in the AXA Training Centre. I should have said AXA Melwood, by the way, but in the AXA Training Centre all the time, obviously, for looking at the game and passages of play and what's worked and what hasn't. We haven't yet even begun to explore how we could have helped them and apply Wasabi AiR, but there would be opportunity.
Well, I mean, the World Series is going to start tonight here in the States. And of course, the World Series is, we joke it's the World Series. There's one team now in Canada, I guess. There used to be two. So the rest are here in the States. But Japan has picked up on it. Of course, Ohtani is just unbelievable. I mean, the other day he was 6 for 6 with 2 home runs and like 6 RBIs or something crazy like that. So these are truly global sports. But what made me think of that is in baseball, they will see where all the balls go that you hit, and they track all that information. So that's why you see the outfield shift, the infield shift left and right for every single player, especially for good players like dead pull hitters, like old Ted Williams, right? I think he was a dead pull hitter. And you see that in the soccer world too. And you're just kind of opening the door now to
Yeah.
a whole new layer of analysis and understanding and appreciation, right, Drew?
You've just triggered another thought, because one of the things that we've always had, like, pockets of data. So there's like things called Opta data that tell us, what's going on in the game, that is used both in terms of, at a professional detailed sport level and an athlete level, all the way through to like things like goals scored, forward passes made, side passes, all of that stuff. And never before have we actually been able to take that data and then kind of overlay it in terms of finding certain passages of play easily. And we're now working on how do we ingest the Opta data on top of what we've already got in terms of the content and the actual games. And then if you can start to drive the meta tagging with all of that data as well, our ability to search for, find me a game where, we broke from our own box and scored a goal within 15 seconds, you can find every clip, right? Because you've got so the other part of all of this is, it's not just about, I can use Wasabi AiR on the content I've ingested. If I can use Wasabi AiR on the content I've got, plus some data feeds, plus some facial recognitions, plus some other external information, I've taken the value of data from this to this.
Yeah, that's
Which
right. And
doesn't work on radio, I just realized, but you know what?
it's okay. We're capturing the video too, so we're all good. But you're giving me another recognition here, and it is the importance of historical data. And we'll talk about this in the next segment. But Drew even mentioned this earlier. We all live in the moment. We're on our phones. We're living right now. But there is a whole history that comes behind everything that's happening today. And I guarantee you, the clubs that really appreciate their history and know their fan base and know who they are and what they're trying to achieve in this world, they have an appreciation for history, and they are going to have a better time getting through difficult periods. If you've got that rich history, you're going to have a better time doing interesting things, doing innovative things. So all of that benefits from having an appreciation of your history. We'll talk about that in the next segment. We'll be right back. You're listening to DM Radio. All right, folks, welcome back. Eric Cavanaugh here, talking to two legends in the industry, Michael Wasabi, Chief Marketing Officer of Wasabi, and Drew Crisp, Senior Vice President of Digital for Liverpool Football Club. Are you kidding me? We're talking all about sports and excitement and everything turning around, which is what really excites me. And Michael in the break was just commenting on social feeds. And Drew, if you mentioned this earlier, those little clips, and let's face it, attention spans are short. So you want the little clips that are like 30 seconds, 45 seconds. But when you can very quickly find that clip that shows how one guy breaks away and then takes off. I mean, I remember when Portugal tied the US, we were beating Portugal in the World Cup. This is like, I don't know, 7 years ago or something. And I'm watching the clock is ticking down. I'm like, guys, just hang tight, hang tight, hang tight. We're up by 1. Like, hang tight, just hold on. And it was your boy Ronaldo just starts hauling ass down the sideline. I'm like, oh God, here it comes, here it comes. and he goes all the way down, and there's just two of them, and there's one defender like just sprinting down the field in the 90th minute. Okay, this is the end of the game. He puts on the afterburners and goes pow and sends this cross. That was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. I'm like, here it goes, boom, in the goal. I'm like, tie game. Like we were winning, guys. Like, could you just hold on for one more minute? But for all the Ronaldo fans, I felt so good because it was like the most amazing pass ever. It's like, how do you do that? Because they do it all the time. But to be able to find that stuff, it gets people energized and really it just amplifies the value of the whole experience. What do you think, Drew?
It's it definitely does. It's the comparison points as well. And actually, fans have the most amazing memories, which clearly you demonstrated here, Eric. You are now a proof point of that. They remember everything about their favorite team or their favorite players or those moments of play. And I'm, of course, sitting, wow, really? Is that what happened 6 years ago? I didn't know. Or is that what happened 3 years ago? I didn't know that either. So our ability to find those bits of content and then, ultimately mash that with, whatever's happened in a current game or in the latest game. Yeah, people love that stuff.
Yeah, and the good stuff goes viral, right? I mean, you both, Michael, you and I are both marketers at heart, and you're always wondering, how can I get the message out? What can I do differently this time? Because the world is changing, and social media changes everything. And now with this Wasabi AiR, you can just kind of turn things inside out and listen to your fans, and you can actually capture that information and learn from the fan base what's exciting to them and focus more on that. So it's very energizing to a marketer to have these capabilities, right, Michael?
Yeah, it's really about the customer story. It's not about our story. Nothing beats a social media clip or a feed that goes out that shows us migrating data to the cloud. That's a yawn, right? But when you see our capability and how it enables Drew to tell his story to the fan, that that's what tells the real story and the power of AI and the promise of the cloud. Right. So yeah, it's great to finally get this to a point where we don't have to talk about how we do it, and instead we talk about why it matters.
Well,
The beauty,
go ahead.
I always say that the beauty of social media is like the immediacy of sharing information. The challenge of social media is the immediacy of information back, right? And what's gone viral. So as you know, Michael, like worse, it doesn't matter how much we plan as marketeers, doesn't matter how much you schedule something, doesn't matter how much you think this is it, this is going something else it will change slightly. Something else will go viral, something else will be, the topic that you might not have thought about. And actually, you've got to be able to react to those things. You've got to be able to suddenly go, actually, I need to pivot this bit of content because it will be better this way, not that way. And yeah, that's hard to do without technology. It's hard to do without the valid information in front of a creator or an editor at a given amount, a given moment in time.
Yeah, and I'll throw this over to Michael. Again, getting back on this theme of an overlay of suddenly being able to explore and play with and have fun and analyze massive amounts of video footage, which you just could not have done before. You would have to sit there and watch through hour after hour after hour. And there's an opportunity cost when you don't have that quick ability to do something. And so you just don't even try. Now you can. Now you can just basically open up this treasure chest of information, of visual information, audiovisual information, and enable your creators to get to the things they want. That fuels the creative process, that triggers ideas and creates new fun things to share, right, Michael?
Yeah, that's right, Eric. You'll appreciate how we came up with this name AiR, because the whole idea around AiR, aside from the fact that it stands for AI recognition capability, is the idea or the concept of breathing life into your content, right? Content that's literally been there for 100 years. That's what this does, right? It makes your media a living asset that's always ready to fuel the next big moment that you want to tell in your story. That's the promise of AiR. And that's kind of where the world's at right now, is how do we take that old data or current data and turn it into some living asset that changes the life of the person on the other end?
Yeah. Yeah. And Drew, I'll throw it over to you for some closing comments here. Again, I'll bring in the importance of history, the importance of tradition, the importance of understanding the continuum that we're all on right now. all these fans who've been watching for years, and there's something very special about the diehard fan, right? I mean, the folks who come every year, whether you're winning or not, and boy, when your team does well, it makes up for years of difficulty. I mean, it just and it you can have all sorts of bad stuff happening in your life, but if your team wins, you're in a good mood. And I've tried to to be less volatile about that because I used to get all upset when the Saints would lose. I'm a Saints fan, that kind of thing. So don't get too upset, but you get
Mm.
invested, and the more you're invested, the more you can enjoy the experience when you win, right, Drew?
Absolutely. I'd also say, I mean, the amazing thing of the commit of all of our fans actually is they stick with their team, whether it's in a good period or a rough period. And every team always has challenging periods. That's part of what being an athlete is about. That's part of the beauty of sport, is that jeopardy. But fans stick with you. And actually, therefore, for fans to be able to experience all of the good times and the bad's really, really important. I go back to something I said earlier. I think it is really important as well, though, that clubs don't lose their legacy and heritage. And there is a risk that,
Wow.
actually with the world of social now and the world of immediate content, give me
Right.
immediate content. It could be easy for organizations, doesn't matter who you are, in what industry, for their legacy, for the history, for the heritage, for the good times, the sad times, the troubled times, the amazing times, to be lost. And
Yeah.
actually, because frankly, it just becomes too hard to find things. The use of Wasabi AiR changes that, because it means that
Yeah.
we maintain it. We can maintain that content. We can keep making sure people are educated on the history of our amazing organization. And, that's the same for many others. But so I truly believe that that's an important part of doing this.
Yeah. Well, it shows. I have to say, it shows. Michael, go ahead.
No, I mean, Eric, you're the living example of a true fan, right? I mean, we started out the conversation talking about the Bulls, but it's gone nowhere good when you start talking about the White Sox, the New Orleans Saints. Those are two of the saddest franchises in the history of sports in America. Yet he's bragging about being a fan, right?
That's
Still
right.
at all. He's still a fan of those teams.
That's right. I caught a Drew Brees pass, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
I went
All
to
right.
a conference, a Domopalooza conference. This is, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. And this will be our closing story for the main segment. Podcast bonus segment is coming up. But I'm in the analyst section, so I'm way up front, but it's in the Salt Palace, I think it's called, which is this big cavernous room. And Josh James, I think the guy's name is, the CEO of Domo, is interviewing Drew Brees up on stage. All right. And he gets to the end, and at some point during the talk, Drew said something and allowed me to go, "Who dat?" Which is, of course, the Saints shout out, right? And I saw him look over, and he's got to be 45 yards from me. Okay, I see him look over and say, "Okay, I got a Saints fan over there," right? So we get to the end of the talk, and Josh says, "Hey, before you leave, I want you to throw a few footballs out to the fans, and please throw one to my dad. He's right there." And so Drew throws one to his dad, and I knew what to do. I stand up, I'm like this, put my hand up like that. I see him look over at me, go like this. I'm like, "Oh my God, here it comes." He goes, throws this pass, and I almost knocked over the table behind me with these two, two ladies and their computers, got all nervous. But I caught that ball. Let me tell you right now, I caught that
That's a
ball.
45-year ball, 45-yard ball. That has velocity on it, so I'm impressed.
It was it was, I mean, I was like, come on.
Yeah.
And normally I don't do this at conferences because I don't like to, be presumptuous, but I texted the analyst relations people and I'm like, "Hey man, I normally don't do this, but it sure would be nice to get a picture with Drew Brees." And they're like, "Well, hold on, we'll get back to you." And then 5 minutes later, they text me like, "Okay, where are you now? Go stage left." I'm like, "Let's go." All the way across. I even had a sprained ankle. I go all the way across, go. Sure enough, there he is, shakes my hand, gets a picture. I have a Drew Brees thrown football. It's right over there, as a matter of fact. And I'll never, ever forget that. I mean, not many people can say they've caught a Drew Brees football, but I did. And
They're
maybe
not let
someday.
they're not letting me anywhere near the pitch at Anfield, right?
Yeah, you never know. You never know, Michael. We'll let you in. We'll let you in. It will
I
be
don't want
a
that on film, okay? Do not video that if I get on
yeah, Michael Welts in goal. There he is. But that's what but that's what fandom's about, isn't it? Like those moments you treasure. You
That's
absolutely
exactly right.
treasure.
As well, so wonderful to have you on the show. Drew Chris, Liverpool Football Club, Michael Welts, Wasabi. Podcast bonus segment is coming up next. You're listening to DM Radio. All right, folks, time for the podcast bonus segment on an absolutely riveting show. This was so much fun talking to Drew Crisp of Liverpool, and of course, Michael Welts, the enabler from Wasabi, who got me that fantastic opportunity. Michael, it's so much fun, I have to say, and you are a fun guy, and that really shows and it shines through
Thanks.
Wasabi. And we joked at the start of the show. Cloud storage, not the most exciting topic in the universe, but what it enables is exciting. And you talked about how AiR came through an acquisition. Can you tell us about that? Because I think this is a fantastic direction for you to go to enable new value from cloud storage. Go ahead.
Sure. So, again, cloud storage has actually been around since roughly 2005. And ironically, as old as it is, there hasn't been a lot of innovation, and frankly, even the adoption rate itself is kind of slow. Overall, cloud is roughly only around, if you listen to AWS, they'll tell you that only about 10% of the world's moved to the cloud. And you wonder why.
Wow. Wow.
And it comes down to a couple of things, but it had to be affordable, it had to be predictable, and that's the Wasabi story. We came out and disrupted the game and made it affordable, predictable, no egress fees, all that kind of thing. So then you start to think, okay, so now people are convinced and they're very quickly moving data to the cloud. So what's the next stage of this? And it's how do you make use of that content?
Mhm.
And while we've been having a great discussion about what's going on in the world of sport, it initially started out with us talking to the media and entertainment world with literally, again, over 100 years of content of movies that are sitting in tapes. First of all, how do we preserve it? And then B, how do we compete now against companies like Amazon, who has their own television network or has their
Right.
own streaming service and it now does their own games? And so now they're looking at how do we get some of that AI stuff to compete against them, to find our old movie clips instantaneously, to turn them into individual new streaming channels on demand where you can
Wow.
say, hey, I want the best of whatever franchise. I just want to watch that show. So
Wow.
AI gave us that opportunity. We found this company. It was called Curio. The CEO of it was a two-time AWS AI expert. We got in, did basically some proof points with people like Drew Crisp and others in the movie industry. Now it's
Wow.
actually transforming itself into things like the legal vertical, which is really interesting, which people are like, how does AI fit into that? But now think about all the video testimony that happens, the depositions, finding that data instantly at the
Wow.
time of trial. We're
Wow.
working with a number of these throughout the country where it's the prosecution or the defenders that are looking to have immediate access to content that frankly they wouldn't have the time to do through thousands of pages of testimony, if you will.
Right.
Yeah.
That's so interesting. And I remember when we first talked about this several months ago, I had this idea in my head of jobs that used to suck and how AI can really transform that. And trust me, going over hours and hours and hours of video footage to find the one moment when someone walks up and, does something they weren't supposed to do, that's a very painful thing to do. It just takes a long time. My wife had a great quote a long time ago that sort of instilled this in me. I'll never forget this because she taught yoga and knows all about that kind of stuff. And she said, it takes an hour to do an hour of meditation. Right? You can't you can't
Right,
condense
right,
that into
right.
10 minutes. Like it
That's right.
takes a full hour to do it. Well, now on all these other use cases, it doesn't have to take you all day to get to that magic moment. And that's what content creation is all about, is finding the magic moment, shining a light on it, right? So there's the creation, then there's the marketing to say, hey, come look at this cool thing. And the better a job you do at only sharing cool things, the more people will listen to you when you say, hey, look at this cool thing. And that's what you're enabling now with Wasabi AiR, right?
Exactly. We work with a number of sports leagues as well, and it's fascinating to sit in there with you. We'll take the CMO, and then we'll take the IT team, and you watch them both light up because, to your point, the IT team will say, "What if we had all this data and we could search it?" And the CMO say, "Well, okay, so why do I care?"
Wow.
Well, suddenly they take all this data and they see that literally in seconds they found that very moment that happens, that they've been looking for that they can again monetize. And I remember in one major league, I can't disclose who it is, but they said, look, when that moment that you just found for us in under 10 seconds normally would take us 2 people one full day and a half to find that.
Right. Right.
Doing it in 10 seconds. So imagine how this is going to transform the industry. Right?
Well, it's so cool because again, it energizes the creators.
Right.
That's the thing. I
That's
love to create, right? And I'm
yeah.
a creator. Now, lucky for me, I do radio and TV and we can do this stuff on demand. But then to be able to go through volumes of information and pull out the useful bits, the interesting bits, and weave it all together and tell a story, that's what has just fundamentally changed now. And that creates so many opportunities because, like I said at the outset of the show, everyone is a creator. We all
Right.
create something. And so when you can work with an instrument that is very easy for you to learn and to play with, well, that greases the tracks to fun content. And that's what we're doing now. And the other thing, just a final comment here, is you are resurfacing an ability to leverage all of history that has been captured on video. And that to me is very, very exciting. Final thoughts from you, Michael.
Well, when we started the company, our whole concept was around simplifying data storage so that you could focus on your core business.
Yeah.
That's exactly what this does now, right? It allows you to focus. There's a lot of discussion. You mentioned this just a minute ago about AI and this fear of AI and how it'll change the job world. Well, our view is that AI will actually allow you to uplift people's creativity and abilities and focus on more strategic things that make them more valuable inside the company. And
Right.
AI can do the mundane work, the search work that
That's
allows
right.
these people to do their jobs better and tell a better story, a better efficiency story inside the business, a more creative story if you're in the marketing department, whatever it is. So I think AI is actually a really powerful tool for businesses to leverage.
Yeah, I think you're right, and that's a great closing comment. It's the great equalizer in many ways. And to your point, Michael, it allows you to tackle a lot of the tedium that people don't want to do and get you to the interesting nuts. It basically allows you to crack all the nuts and just eat the delicious part of the nut and not have to worry about all the
Well
other
said.
stuff.
Right now, I'm
So, well,
getting hungry.
folks, what a wonderful conversation today. Look these gentlemen up online, Michael Welts from Wasabi and Drew Crisp from Liverpool Football Club. You've been listening to DM Radio.